Any good stories from the road?
Pipe up.
I wish we'd gotten seen a little bit more out of our punter.
I'm starting to puke.
It makes my stomach hurt.
I thought he was going to die.
I'm starting to throw up in my mouth a little bit.
He's on the probiotics.
Is Georgia playing the 1985 Bears this weekend or what?
A lot of Todd talk.
Rat poison proof.
They're mongoose.
We will not be hunted at the University of Georgia. I can promise you that. The hunting that we do will be done from us going the other direction.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to February. Welcome to the Georgia Show. And we've got a couple Robinsons, different Robinson impact from both of them. But first, let's start with Todd Monken, guys. We're going to have Jake Roos on momentarily so we can really get the expert opinion here on Duce Robinson and Ellis Robinson. As far as where we start today, let's take a look at what Kenny McIntosh and Todd Monken's stories are and how they're diverging in Georgia's offseason wooded forest. I'm Wes Blankenship. This is Jake Rowe, Palmer Toms. Fellas, how's it going?
I can't complain.
I can. I'm watching Georgia.
Palmer, why are you complaining tonight?
I can because I've got Georgia basketball on a second TV, screen over here.
I watched it for a few minutes, but
guys, they're back within 20 now. After
I have been known to pay a stringer. Speaking of 20, I have been known to try and pay stringers $20 to go cover Georgia basketball games for me whenever I was on a solo beat. Not much of a basketball guy.
Not a hoop guy.
No, I just don't offer very much expertise. I like watching the game. I watch Georgia basketball on TV all the time. I'm familiar with the team. I don't like covering it because I don't feel comfortable writing about it. It's just kind of not. I don't know, man. I feel like if you're a writer, if you're a classically trained writer, not myself, probably more Wes's area there. If you read him, he's really eloquent.
I get that all from my mom. She's just a natural, and I just couldn't help but pick it up. I have no idea what I'm doing. My mom's probably a better writer than me too. She's got a lot better handwriting as well. But yeah, it's just I'm not classically trained like that, so I like to write about what I know about. And I know ball. I know football. I've coached it a little bit. I played it a lot. I've studied it a lot, and so that's kind of what I know. And I hate writing about basketball, man. So good on Palmer for being our basketball beat guy and our football beat guy. So. All right, well, let's stay away from the depressing.
I'm the team beat reporter over here, not football reporter, not basketball, not baseball. We'll hit on that a little bit this spring. Team beat.
It's all about the team. Let's get away from the depressing basketball storyline of the day and look at the latest on Todd Monken. Guys, we heard from Chris Mortensen on the Buck Belue show today on 680 The Fan and picked that up. And Mortensen seems to believe that Monken will be offered the Tampa job for sure. And in his words, if you listen to him say it, he would be surprised if Georgia wasn't looking for a new offensive coordinator. I'm fascinated by this because I think it is the classic scenario when you get to these NFL college storylines. Who knows more, the NFL insider or the Georgia insider? Jake, you want to take a stab at this?
Yeah, not hearing that at all. I would be surprised if Todd Monken took that Tampa job. I'm not saying he's not going to take another one. I mean, we're going to have some open jobs here. Who's D'Amico Ryans go after in Houston? And would Todd Monken be interested in that? Sean Payton wants somebody to call plays in Denver. I don't think he will. I hope not. Also, as a Broncos fan, very excited about that hire. I was also excited about Russell Wilson, though, so what the hell I know. I don't see it happening in Tampa. Right now, I would lean towards – if I had to lean one way or the other, if I had to call it, I would lean towards Todd Monken staying in Georgia is what I would, say. I think Chris Mortensen, I kind of, listened to it a little bit, thought about it some. We all texted back and forth about it. It sounded to me like he was just kind of assuming that if Todd Monken got offered the job, he would take it. And listen, that is a fair assumption in a lot of instances because you're not interviewing for a job you don't want. But I've also had people tell me that it took some doing. It took some convincing to get Todd Monken to go and interview for that job. It wasn't at the top of his list. We all know why. They've got cap issues. They've got quarterback issues. They got one quarterback one quarterback under contract, and Todd Bowles has been fired from one job already. And why I think he's a fantastic person, met him at the Bruce Arians golf tournament several years ago at Lake Oconee, and he was just kind of a wonderful dude to talk to, real laid back. Told me about
a great linebacker.
Yeah, father to Georgia linebacker Troy Bowles. Told me about Troy at that time. I think Troy was probably in the 7th grade or something back then. But yeah, he was talking about him and kind of having a son kind of coming up and playing ball. Really good dude, but probably not going to make it past this coming season with all the different issues that they have in that organization. But I don't think Todd Monken's going to go to Tampa Bay. I would bet really good money, actually, that Todd Monken's not going to go to Tampa Bay. And I watched them make him just an insane offer and him be like, okay, well, whatever. We'll figure this out later on down the road. I can't turn this down. But I don't see it right now. I'd bet good money against it.
So we had a lot of people asking today how the Tom Brady retirement part deux would potentially impact Monken's reality with Tampa Bay. And I know you've already just said everything that you just said there, Jake, but for anyone that's still skeptical about that, how would a quarterback decision in Tampa potentially affect the way that Monken is thinking about this thing? Because you had that job, and then you also had the Baltimore deal where Lamar Jackson is potentially not going to be there either, depending on a trade situation there. Do you think that, let's say Monken really is eyeing the NFL? Does he want to go somewhere where there's an established quarterback, or would you venture to guess that maybe he wants to go somewhere where, maybe they're going to change things up and bring in some fresh blood?
I don't know if I would say established, but I would say upside. Some flashing, some maybe you go somewhere where you got a really young quarterback that has shown, some really nice ability, like a Trevor Lawrence, right? I mean, like if Todd Monken had a chance to go be the offensive coordinator and play caller, and I think that's a big part of it too, Wes. I think that's something we don't need to skip over there. Todd Monken, his last job in the NFL was with the Cleveland Browns. He openly said he wished he would have handled that differently, which makes me think maybe he got in kind of a crappy state of mind by being the offensive coordinator that didn't call plays. Because I believe, if I'm following the timeline correctly, he had a couple years there with Tampa where he didn't call the plays. Then he called the plays in the 3rd year. They had a really good offense that year, but they got fired because they couldn't stop turning the ball over. He goes to Cleveland. I think maybe he had some expectations there. Freddie Kitchens took care of the whole thing. That didn't work out either. Monken says he wasn't proud of the way he handled that whole situation. I think that Todd Monken is going to want a place where he can call plays. I also think he wants the right situation. So I think a place like Jacksonville would be tremendous for him if he could call plays. So it's not easy to find, because if you look around the league, a lot of the most stable quarterback situations, a lot of the best situations there are teams with head coach play callers, Andy Reid's and Matt LaFleur and Kyle Shanahan, and list goes on and on and on. I mean, we're all 4 playoff teams like that this week. Bengals guy is, I'm sure, is Nick Sirianni, and I believe he is. Yeah, so I think all 4 of the playoff coaches in championship weekend are offensive play callers. If I'm not mistaken, I may be missing one. But yeah, so I mean, I don't know. That's another reason I think Todd Monken is likely to end up back.
Here's the thing, though, is that a lot of those jobs are not coming open. If you've got a successful play caller, if you've got a quarterback that's working well, those typically don't come open unless you're getting hired by somebody else. And a lot of times they want to promote from within to keep a little bit of continuity with what's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. So I mean, that's kind of where I'm with you, Jake. The money aspect could change it. Now Georgia has money to offer. He's already the highest paid assistant in college football, and I don't think they'd be afraid to pay him more. The money is probably not what's going to win him into the NFL. What would win him into the NFL would be, I want to be in the NFL. I want to be an NFL play caller And again, that's something that you can't really. There's
Yeah, maybe
the
he
only
does.
person that
I mean,
knows that is Todd Monken.
maybe that allure is there. Well, many of you will listen to this replay on Groundhog Day, and I got to tell you, talking about Todd Monken every time we get together is starting to feel like Groundhog Day.
Listen,
Can't help it though.
I gotta say something real quick. I just swallowed a whole piece of ice.
Are you all right?
I don't know. I feel it going. It's kind of stuck in me a little bit, kind of weird, like. But I just swallowed a whole piece of ice. It freaked me out for a second. I hope you can go back and like get me because I kind of sorry.
You're like the
I kind of had to
medicine
talk about it for
commercial
a second because I got a little panicky.
You're like the medicine commercial that Jerry Seinfeld talks about, where it always shows like the heat radiating down your esophagus, but it's just your ice cube. It's starting to feel like Groundhog Day talking about Todd Monken, but I can't help the fact that he really is the biggest unknown, I think, this offseason so far. And there seems to be something new every time we talk. So,
and hey, I'll add to that. That's a good thing. That's a really good thing that is the biggest unknown about this Georgia football program right now. You know, I saw it on Twitter and I said it to somebody today. The fact that Georgia didn't have an eventful signing day today is a good sign of where this program is at. They're locking up the kids that they want to lock up. They're keeping the coaches around that they want to keep around. They're not firing people, and they're lucky that people haven't been hired from within.
And if there were openings, they probably wouldn't have as much trouble as other schools are having.
Bingo.
At filling them.
So this is all really good for a sign of where Georgia is at.
I want to give a shout out to Tennessee, man. I think you're probably trolling. If you're trolling, you're doing a great job. If you're not trolling,
thanks for subscribing.
Thank you for subscribing. That's exactly.
Hey, can we comment? Can we highlight that very next comment from Cody?
Cody.
All right,
Tony Wilson, 3 first names.
CT Dub, listen, buddy. We've been reporting the same thing for a little while now. So definitely the fall camp deal. That's something that we've been kind of hammering home over at DawgsHQ about the quarterback battle going into the fall. And we were on Todd Monken pretty much whenever we found out that when that job, correct me if I'm wrong here, but when the Tampa job opened up, that was one of the first things we said as a staff was this doesn't mesh, because we knew going back to our reporting from way back when that it was going to take the right situation. That Todd Monken and he let us know this when he spoke to us before the Peach Bowl. Yep. It was, listen, I like it here. I like winning. It's about the fight song in the locker room. That's one quote I will remember for a long time, because I never heard anybody quite say it that way. But there was an emotion to that for Todd Monken. The way he said that,
he'd rather win in Alaska than lose in San Diego.
Yeah, exactly. And if it's downtown San Diego, I understand. That was post-apocalypse.
San Diego actually just hired Kellen Moore as its OC.
Yeah, it did.
A few days after we were just talking about him potentially
going
to Bama. So it just shows you how quickly things change in the league. Let's talk about Kenny Mack, though. Kenny McIntosh getting a lot of love right now at the Senior Bowl. I was going to chop wood about him. I'll probably have to change topics because this is the Kenny show right now. And Kenny McIntosh is getting a lot of glow. I wrote about Todd McShay. I know y'all are surprised to hear that Todd McShay actually likes a Georgia player. He doesn't just single out dogs and try to drag them down before the draft process begins. He really likes Kenny McIntosh. And it seems like Kenny Mack is really absorbing a lot of the Senior Bowl week and festivities and taking advantage of the opportunity he has. And I want to make a note here. James Cook and Zamir White chose not to go, and you have your choice to do that. As a running back, I didn't question their decisions at all, and I wouldn't have questioned Kenny Mack if he didn't go, because you want to keep that tread on the tires. But Kenny Mack is having fun in Mobile. At least that's what it seems like.
Yeah, and he's a fantastic football player, man. Like when you look back on this Georgia season, 1,300 total yards. I mean, it needs to be considered one of the best in Georgia history. And if I'm not mistaken, it's the best receiving season for a Georgia tailback ever.
I'd have to double check that, but it does seem. I think the numbers he put up definitely notable in the pantheon.
It's definitely
definitely
going back to 2009. I believe Todd Gurley had 441 yards receiving one year. Kenny McIntosh had 504, 1,333 total yards. He averaged roughly, about 90, almost 90 total yards a game for Georgia over a 15-game season, which is pretty incredible, and scored 12 touchdowns in the process. Also, just kind of, clenched his teeth and made some, and kind of put Georgia on his back in moments. You look back at that Missouri game, Kirby Smart has brought that up a few times. We brought it up afterward. And then also, man, the game where he fumbled, Palmer, remember that? Was that
Florida.
Kentucky? Florida. Yeah,
Florida.
Yeah, that game, and the way he came back in that one. So
just became a different guy entirely.
Yeah, he's going to be a good pro. I don't necessarily know that he's going to make
He ran pissed off.
Yeah. I don't know if he's going to be
high against Kentucky.
I don't know if he's going to be like a Pro Bowler or ever a lead back, but it's not going to surprise me if he's like a Kevin Falk type dude that sticks around in the league for about 9-10 years, plays on some really good good teams, and is a part of maybe a championship or two, kind of a Sony Michel route, but maybe a little bit more longevity there.
Yeah, Chris Smith highlights playing right now. If you're audio only and you want to head on over to our YouTube channel, we got a glimpse here, and I think of the footage that we got from our On3 network, Chris Smith in these drills was really, really impressive.
And I will add to that, I think Kenny probably, from everything I've heard from Senior Bowl folks, Kenny was very impressive, but he got banged up early in the practice. Went down, hustle play. I mean, just
what do you have, a little bit of a cramp?
After a loose ball, but came up a little bit gimpy, cramp, came back and was a active participant again today, and saw some highlights, and people were impressed. Good Lord, Mardrez McBride has hit 6 3-pointers in this second half.
What's the score?
88-66.
Okay.
Not quite Duke, Georgia Tech, but
no.
Auburn's starting to feel like a basketball school again, huh?
Deep South's oldest rivalry is not working out for him on the gridiron, that's for sure.
Yeah, sure. Anything else standing out to you guys from the Senior Bowl? Warren McClendon representing Devin Willock with his jersey number was a pretty great touch. A lot of people feeling upset about how some people have handled the questions of Warren down there. I thought, however, whatever kind of questions he was asked, he's handling it very well. And it's just another great opportunity for Georgia players to make some strides down there in Mobile. And we heard Nagy talking about Stetson not going, and we can go down that rabbit hole, but I'm going to choose not to. I think everything's been said that needs to be said about the mailman and Mobile.
Well, I do want to cape up here a little bit for Zach Klein, because I do know Zach pretty well. And Wes, I don't know how well you know him. You may have.
Yeah, I know Zach.
Zach's always been super kind and super great to me. And we come from different places altogether, but I enjoy being around him. There was an agreement ahead of time to they and when I say an agreement, they spoke to Warren McClendon about, hey, are you ready to answer questions about this? They were literally saying, if you don't want to, we won't do it. And Warren said, okay, that's fine, go ahead. But probably because he wants to go ahead and answer them, get them out there, and hope that he doesn't have to deal with a bunch of those again. His saying, hey, I don't remember a whole lot, it kind of happened fast, is a way to get that out of the way. And yeah, I mean, if you don't have that agreement beforehand, if you don't kind of touch base on that beforehand, I do believe that just bringing that up out of the blue is probably out of bounds.
I mean, Zach has and WSB has exclusive rights with Georgia. I don't have to stick up for Zach. I mean, he's part of the best local news sports team. Certainly, has the best viewership, and that's no slight to any of the other ones. It just is what it is. Your parents watch WSB, your grandparents watch them. Zach's not going to go down there and start stirring the pot with Georgia. I know that y'all assume that the AJC is going to do that. And to a certain extent, I see where you're coming from on some of their coverage, but Zach Klein is not doing that.
There's a reason you've
I
never
know that's
heard
really inside baseball.
There's another reason. There's a reason you've never heard that. This is not like, oh my God, he did that. No, he didn't, because he doesn't, and he wasn't here. They did this the right way, and I know it didn't seem that way to everybody on the front end. I mean, on the back end of this, on the end of this. Whenever you read the story and you're like, oh my God, why was he asked that to begin with? Don't pass the judgments without understanding that. Listen, they don't just throw them in front of us and do that. Like there's conversations off the record before the record begins. If a player doesn't want something said, they'll say it. If a reporter is, if it's ambiguous to a reporter will say, hey, is it okay if we ask this? Now, if Warren McClendon was still at Georgia, Claude Felton would have probably told us, hey, it's okay to talk about this, or it's not okay to talk about this.
Yeah.
But they asked him straight up, and Warren, a 21-year-old guy who is now stepped into the professional ranks, said he was ready to talk about it. And they didn't probe and ask 1,000 questions. As far as I know, they asked 2, maybe 3. So,
yep. Good call, Jake. Glad you brought that up.
Not to mention, I will add, like, a reporter's job is to cover what people want to know. And with Warren McClendon, people want to know that. That is the biggest Warren McClendon story right now. Obviously, like you said, it's his mental health and all that is a priority. But once he says it's okay, that's something that the people want to know.
100%. Anything stick out to you guys about Kenny McIntosh's media availability today? When this is done, y'all have a moment. Go check out Kenny's interview with the media. Always affable. He didn't have a cigar or an oversized hat on today. I've actually gotten used to seeing him wearing those things and puffing on cigars after the last couple of games. But
he didn't have a blunt cigar.
Cigar. He's on.
I just like my blunt cigar. So, it did stand out. Built by Georgia. He brought up at least 2 times, maybe more times in like an 11-minute interview, of how Georgia had prepared him not only for the Senior Bowl, but for what he's going to face kind of later on. Talked about the practices. Guys, they talk about that a lot because it's a real deal. And I think Georgia fans kind of really latched onto it this year. The whole practice thing, they don't do it like we do it because, they heard that Kirby, audio. Listen, it's going to be a sad day when they snuff old boy out that's recording that. I'm just telling you right now.
Jake, I've got a theory, tinfoil hat theory. I think the same person who's recording it is the same anonymous coach who's telling all these reporters that Georgia players aren't good enough and that they won't be elite on game day and that they're overrated and so on and so forth.
Can we tongue in cheek guess as to the people we know inside the program that we think are pulling it off?
Brian Gant does a lot of.
I mean, he wears a lot of hats, bro. He wears a lot of hats.
He does a lot of work for that program.
And Georgia fans, listen, if you're super casual and you don't know who Brian Gant is the dog of all dogs. Okay, this man has spanned coaches, and he loves the University of Georgia like nobody else does. He knows more about the University of Georgia than anybody else. Every skeleton, every closet, this man's got it. I thought about Brian Gant. I also thought about Mike Cavan. I thought Coach Cav may also, be the one that's kind of. I'm not totally convinced Coach Cavan wasn't the one that went and parked up under that tree and videoed from the outside and got Kirby screaming at Keeley
from the Presbyterian building, or
right,
whatever it is.
I think it was from the second side.
Roos, who is your opinion? Somebody inside the program. We're kind of tossing around ideas. The guy who is doing these Kirby recordings and leaking them out for an advantage, we believe, is that they also telling these serving as this anonymous coach that says that Georgia's no good and they can't beat so and so.
If Kirby didn't want it to happen, it wouldn't still be happening. Is my thought process.
Oh, no question about
He
it.
He would hit all of them with lightning bolts.
I feel like this is how we get sued for libel.
No, I already said it.
I'm
I
not
already
going
said
there.
it. This is tongue in cheek. We said this. Listen. We're Tucker Carlson in this thing. Okay,
It's all alleged.
it's all
With
entertainment.
all due respect, and I mean with all due respect.
No, you know, it's like one of these student assistants that he's just, he probably tells the kid to do it and then yells at him. And, I mean, it happens both ways.
It's some kid doing it with tears and a mix of tears and sweat rolling down his face.
I want to say I did it.
Please don't make me do it again.
That the pre-Alabama 18, I want you to eat. I think that one was a recruiting assistant or some sort of student assistant.
You left some words out.
Palmer knows who it was. He was in school at that time. Palmer definitely knows who it
That was
was.
my freshman year.
Hey, listen, there have been times before when you're out to eat with the dudes and I've had a few beers in me and we all sit down and eat. I kind of want to give them that speech. I'm like, I want you to eat. I want you to eat. Like I really want to give them revved up.
That's what I say to my 3-year-old. She's just sitting there looking at the window and playing with their fingernail paint.
Yeah, I want you to eat. Stop coloring and eat.
Yeah.
Guys, I don't think Georgia's going to give up 100. They're at 94 with 49 seconds left.
Oh, thank God.
The
They got
little
that going
victories.
for 'em, which is nice.
Let's talk about breaking tea really quick. Palmer, if you bring up the basketball score again, I'm going to scream. Breaking tea. Breaking tea wants you to eat. There's Stetson Bennett.
I want to make sure we get a look at that Brock Bowers old school dream team looking photo, the animated one. I want to make sure we get a look at that one. We're going to revisit that a little bit later on
Okay.
in chopping wood.
I'm just scrolling through all the t-shirts right now for our
Guys,
podcast listeners.
I gotta listen. I told you guys my wife ordered a couple of these, and I really do need to contact Breaking Tees. There we go. That's a bad shirt right there, guys. I don't know why in the world Georgia fans don't. I mean, that needs to be prevalent.
It's the old school Bulldog.
Yeah, just remember that shirt. I'm going to make a reference to it later on. But these are really well made.
He doesn't even need a helmet.
Yeah. The ghost of Red Grange. I got to give Mike Griffith some credit for that one. He just blurted out the ghost of Red Grange, and I mean it was true. He runs ugly. He runs like he's like a throwback, but it's hard to tackle him. It's hard to catch him.
Breaking tea. You need a new Georgia t-shirt, hoodie, coffee mug, all the above. Go to Breaking Tea. What are you waiting on? Get over there. All right, Jake Roos, the man, the myth, the recruiting insider. You didn't really have to do too much today, man. Let's start with Duce Robinson. We will throw Ellis Robinson all of his flowers, but everyone wants to know about Duce. What's going on with that big guy from the desert?
First off, I want to mention Tomahawk Dog is over here talking about how my hat's hanging on by one snap, which is a fair statement. I do have a gigantic head. I think Ro can attest to that. But yeah, and he said Ro said he had a big head. Listen, my head's gigantic. Anyway, on to Duce Robinson. It looks this one is taking a turn since the beginning of the week. We kind of came into Sunday, even Monday, thinking that this was going to be a situation where he was going to sign on Wednesday, and then pretty much over the course of, let's say, Monday afternoon, Monday evening, you started to hear the news that maybe he was reconsidering that. By Tuesday, it was a done deal that he wasn't going to, and so kind of here we are. USC has climbed back into this thing and feels like a real contender as well. But I do think that really this is a two-way battle. Georgia's fighting with Major League Baseball when it comes to Duce Robinson.
MLB tampering.
John
Coppolella over here.
Well, they're fighting with that, and they're fighting for fighting with Duce Robinson's production as a senior in high school.
Yeah, absolutely.
Obviously, I mean he's got to go out there and have a really incredible senior season. Georgia fans are hoping for maybe a good, cool, 1 for 28 to start the season or something, just get this thing go, or maybe a 1 for 28 to end the season,
Yeah, he needs a slump.
Todd Hartley's going to be in the outfield just heckling him.
Yeah, I think it's I do. I think it's Major League Baseball versus Georgia for Duce Robinson's services. And look, I get it, because I think the message the kid is sending is probably the right one. And there's only a certain amount of guys that can do this, right? I mean, not everybody is an Under Armour All-American in 2 sports. I think there were 2 guys that were listed. Kyler Murray, I know, was one. Who was the other one? Anyway, there was 2 guys that we knew of.
I know who it is, and I'm just blanking on it.
I'm sorry, Kyler Murray and
AJ Brown is the other one.
AJ Brown. I was going to say, was it Jameis Winston, but it was AJ Brown.
No, it was AJ Brown and Kyler Murray, 2 both Under Armour All-Americans in both sports. Duce has the opportunity, perhaps if his senior year in baseball goes the way that he hopes it does, to find himself high in the draft. What's not going to sit well with MLB teams if they want to make an investment in an early round is if he's already inked paperwork and is focused on the college football level. So he's kind of hedging his bet on himself. And the reality is he doesn't have to sign any paperwork. He doesn't have to do anything. I mean, he'll do financial aid agreements or whatever, and then he can just show up in June if that's the route that he chooses. It's like the Roquan Smith situation in those regards. But, this is, I don't know. It makes – I know it's not what people want necessarily, but I think that it is still a battle. I think Georgia's still the landing spot, assuming he chooses college football, which is the best thing that you can hope for, right? I mean, it's not like you're being usurped, I think, by another team. The real consideration, though, is how does that senior year pan out? We'll see. Ro, I know you've spoken to some people about his prospects as an MLB guy. Jonathan Taylor asking, does the Walker Lions commit to USC a good sign that we get Duce? I think that it doesn't hurt your chances. I'll tell you that. I think they were hedging their bets as well. So, again,
but I think Walker Lyons is not a this year guy.
Exactly, which is also
he's going to do a 1-year mission, from what I've heard. And just to kind of interject there real quick, Roos, like Duce Robinson is the kind of guy that you never know about these high school kids. They can be really good, really good, really good. And then he could show up and kind of start doing some things that he hadn't done earlier in his career. And then he could find himself like a top 3 pick in the draft with just a transcendent senior season with a great, because he's got a big time arm. He runs well, extremely well, no doubt about it. He's 6'6". He's got kind of an Aaron Judge quality to him. I don't know if he can rake like Aaron Judge, but he can, obviously he's a really big time prospect, massive, really good athlete, can cover a lot of ground, be a plus defender in the outfield. It's tough. It's tough. But here's the thing is like Roos was saying, if you're signed with a school, the communication changes. Like they can communicate with you that they normally can't. They can host you for things. This is the age of NIL. You can't tell me that Georgia, if it is legal to get him on campus and know that he's fighting against baseball, isn't just raising all sorts of cash for him and getting it to him every legal way it possibly can to fly him out to come see Georgia and spend the weekend with players and coaches and try to get a girlfriend and everything else. I mean, that's the way this game works. They want him to be attached to Georgia. So I think the Robinsons are doing a very savvy move, one that I would hope that if my son was in the same situation, I would have the Richard Williams, gonads to make it happen, because, that's staring it in the face, not taking bird in the hand right there. And kudos to them, because at the end of the day, this is baseball and there's a 1 in, 1,500 chance, maybe even less than that, maybe 1 in 5,000 chance that he's going to have a life-changing injury playing that sport. So I think, especially at the high school level. So I think, like Ruth said, he's betting on himself, and 6'6", 225, runs like a deer. Who
can blame him? I mean, really, that's the thing. At the end of the day, listen, and I get it too, from the idea of he's a senior in high school, right? He's got kind of these opportunities just don't come around like this. I mean, that's the
Well,
reality of the situation.
And Ro, you said he's got a chance to go, super high in the MLB draft. That's made a lot more possible by a team knowing that they have to blow him away to get him to play baseball for them. I mean, if he's taken, and a first round pick is a first round pick in the MLB, there's lots of money that goes into all those guys. But if he's taken top 10, the money that comes along with that's a really enticing offer. I mean,
but you're also playing chicken with the schools, because you're sitting there, USC, Georgia, Texas. Somebody going to get impatient and do something crazy?
No, they could. They will.
Yeah, somebody going to do something crazy and get a collective on the hook for $8 million.
Oh boy.
Well, and I guess that's where the decision to not sign today goes both ways. It can help him, but by a team, knowing that they have to blow him away, they really have to wow him with an offer. They have to wow him with their draft position, but also a team knowing that, hey, maybe we don't take this guy because he's still flirting with the possibility of not even coming to play baseball.
Listen, man,
like Tim McGraw said, man, how bad do you want it?
I got to say something here. I got to borrow a phrase from The Wire. My man Bodie says it in The Wire. That look on that look of Duce Robinson's face right there is the look of a man that has the world by the ass.
Oh yeah,
because he is sitting there thinking, "Hey, I ain't
off camera. He's just holding both cheeks.
I don't got to sign, and they're going to chase me. They're just going to chase me down for my football ability. And maybe I have a great senior season of baseball. Maybe I don't. If I don't, I'll just go play this football game and probably make, at the bare minimum, $75,000, $80,000 to $100,000 a year. Or, I can make, and then with a very good chance to make $20, $30, $40 million by the time you're 26, 27 years old. Or you'll get blown away. You'll have a great senior season of baseball. Maybe you get them in a bidding war in the process. There's just no telling when it's going to rain cash on Duce Robinson. And
it's a win-win.
He's a hero right now, just pulling that slot machine.
The forecast is cash heavy. That's all it is. That's all we know. It's not a matter of when the cash rains. It's not a matter of if, it's when the cash rains.
Yeah, he's betting on himself with house money. Is what he's doing. He's betting on himself. Listen, I've bet on myself before, and I'm shaped like a bar of Dove soap. Okay, that dude right there is 6'6", 225 pounds of just raw athlete. So, going to be a rich man. Good for Duce Robinson.
Yeah, and listen, I think that somebody asked, what will schools do? They're going to wait around on Duce Robinson. I promise you. Anything, it doesn't matter. Nobody's upset with Duce Robinson for taking his time. Of course, they would love for him to be in, but I promise you, nobody has said a crossword to Duce Robinson about this decision. They will patiently wait for him in any facet to get him on there. I mean, and as you said, Ro, too, I think that it doesn't happen a lot. But I think that he is a kid who really will try to go to sport in college if he goes the college route. And then you have the opportunity perhaps to increase your draft stock in that regard. Maybe you continue to grow your game and show some stuff to some more scouts. There's a lot of unknown in this, but what we do know is that Duce Robinson not going to sign right now. But like I said, I still think Georgia, the team to beat if he chooses college football.
Duce Robinson could get one of those paper Burger King crowns, wear it everywhere he goes, and demand people call him your grace, and they would all do it.
No question.
No doubt.
That's what they do in the recruiting photos.
Yeah.
I know it's apples and oranges to compare baseball to football, because in one sport you are literally wearing pajamas. But if there's one thing I think that Georgia has an advantage on, and it's interesting, I hadn't thought about it this way until this show just now. You guys are just inspiring and sparking some really deep thoughts between these ears. Georgia's got something going on at the tight end position right now that they kind of do at running back, where, you are just saving these guys body blows just by sheer depth and with the talent that you're able to pile up. And I know tight end's a little bit different than the running back position, but at least if they want to sell a little bit of something that sets them apart and differentiates them from USC and Texas on the football front, it's, hey, at least you don't have to carry this entire team's tight end hopes on your shoulders.
Not only that, they'll put you to work in a very efficient way and highlight you.
Ellis Robinson is the other Robinson of note, and he actually brought a little bit of fireworks to Georgia signing day today. Jake Roos, explain to us how Ellis Robinson's commitment gives Georgia the #1 class in 2024.
So you got to consider that currently there are only 3 guys that are being factored in. We up that number as the classes progress and as people kind of find equal footing. So there's not like a definite window that I'm aware of, but right now it's your top 3 commits. Okay, Ellis Robinson is now Georgia's #1 commit. He is the top commit on their board, and he is the #1 cornerback in the nation, for God's sakes, which is about as premium of a position as you could possibly have a #1 player at when you're talking about college football. So what a fantastic job here by Fran Brown. And I went back and read some interviews I'd done with Ellis in the past, and he mentioned, what people see IMG, they think Florida. This is a kid from New Haven, Connecticut, originally played in the Catholic leagues, I think, up in New York at Iona Prep, and then transferred down to IMG. So he was a known commodity in the Northeast. And you know who else was a known commodity in the Northeast? Rutgers cornerback coach Fran Brown, who started a relationship with Ellis Robinson when he was a freshman in high school. He carried that over immediately to Athens, and it has paid huge dividends for the Dogs. No question about it. Alabama and Georgia were jockeying for position throughout this thing. You can see it right there on the RPM if you're looking. It really, he was one of those kids that it felt like wherever he visited last was the place, and so Georgia, I think on that last visit for the national championship parade, ended up creating the separation needed to go ahead and land this commitment. 6'1", I thought we had him at 6'1" now. 5'11" and a half, we got him at 175 there. But at any rate, 6'7" wingspan on the young man. Can run out of the gym. Not maybe not a burner. I wouldn't say, maybe not the absolute. I mean, he's not. I don't think he's Keely Ringo fast. Let's put it that way. But he's got great speed. Deadly with the ball in his hands. A very, very willing striker, which
kind of running like Todd Gurley here on this kickoff return, just all limbs everywhere, but he gets the job done.
Reminds me a lot of DeAndre Baker as a cornerback. Like Ruth said, not a burner, super long, not like elite size, but good size, and the length is kind of the kicker there. DeAndre Baker comes to mind for me.
Ruth, you mentioned Ellis as a known commodity out of the Northeast that spent some time at IMG. Georgia's got another one of those in the secondary that I feel certain probably helped with this recruitment. I don't know if they overlapped at IMG, but John El Aguero.
And also Dalen Everett.
Yeah.
So,
the Dogs are racking up at IMG, and that wasn't always the case when IMG was first founded.
Georgia's killing it at IMG now.
Yes.
But I don't think either one of these guys played with Dalen Everett, or I don't think he played with Dalen Everett or Jonah, because his first year at IMG was
last year, and Jonell had
gone back to Massachusetts, and Dalen Everett was at Georgia. So
yeah. But he certainly at least has guys that are able to speak to that experience and say,
sure,
exactly, it's over. Certainly,
exactly.
Yeah,
and you don't know if they knew each other from the camp circuits or whatnot and stuff.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Of course. Guys like this, listen, you're the #1 cornerback. Other dudes, I promise. You're around the other guys of this caliber.
Yeah, these are his sophomore highlights. It really is amazing, though, guys. I mean, you see, we watch so many of these huddle clips, and none of us are professional talent scouts by any means, but you see these guys, and after a while, you start to think about it, and you're like, man, almost every guy in Georgia's secondary looks like this.
Yeah.
It's not just one. You're not just hitting on one or two of them. It's like the standard.
And this cat right here is, enrolling. It's provided he enrolls injury free, may play right away.
I can see it.
Really, I mean, if there's any opening at all, a competition, a true competition or anything, as long as there are not two incumbent starters, I think
and there won't be, because
right,
I mean,
maybe
I guess that
you're assuming Kamari leaves early.
That's what I was going to say, is that's an assumption, but not a far stretch.
Well, it's kind of what's happened at Georgia, right? I mean, it's just kind of DeAndre Baker stayed all 4 years. So that was good for Georgia, but starting with like Tyson Campbell and Eric Stokes, it's just kind of kind of turned over since then.
How does Georgia? I mean, I'm watching him excel on both sides of the ball here, and I know a lot of players do in high school, but how does Georgia determine like its special teams? Like watching this kid return kicks, pretty solid at that. And
I always thought Keely Ringo would get a shot personally, but
I can't remember the last time a defensive player. I know Mecole was kind of on that line, but
freshman year.
Yeah, Mecole was technically one. I mean, you may have to go back to
Boykin.
Yeah, that's a long
Surely
time
not
ago.
that far. Surely not.
Oh boy, but he was really stinking good at it.
Oh yeah, he was
kickoffs and punt returns.
I mean, you may have to go back that far, because they love those wide receivers.
It was a common thing under Mark Richt, because Prince Miller did it. Prince Miller, did it.
Brandon Smith played both ways, and
Thomas Flowers did it.
That's true.
Well, and I will say, it's not that they don't have those guys trained to do it. Malachi Starks is out there before every game returning kicks. It's just that there's a sure-handedness that comes with playing wide receiver as opposed to.
Well, there's also a lot of the Palmer. Those drills, we watch them sometimes early in practice. They're not out there trying to get the ball out of the defensive player's hands. They're out there trying to get it out of the offensive player's hands. And it's almost like these guys have more training of ball security and things like that. So maybe that's where that comes from in that aspect. But Palmer's right. They do practice those guys out there.
It was just a little sidebar question I thought of.
Tyreek Stevenson
wandering into my thoughts.
Actually, you want to know the last one to actually field a punt in a game might be Tyreek Stevenson.
Yeah,
because I do believe he actually fielded a
McGee did it too, didn't he?
I do not recall Tyreek McGee doing it, but I believe Tyreek Stevenson did field a punt.
Okay.
Here's some research. We're gonna do this.
I don't even know how you would do that, but
just look up you got a CFB stats and look at his player page.
Now I'm looking at his UGA bio. He did return 2 punts for 37 yards in 2020 with a long of 23.
This guy's a machine. Road can't be stopped.
Producer Palmer bringing the heat.
And record keeper Rowe.
Listen, it's huge though. I know people like to downplay commitments like this because they are so far out of signing. I mean, I get it. It's February. The kid can't sign until December. It's a long way to go. Nobody's going to stop recruiting the kid. But I'll tell you, it's a lot harder. I think for most kids, it's a lot harder to back off like that than it is to, if you just keep it open, there's no pressure whatsoever. But you probably burned some bridges. You probably hurt some feelings of some people you've been close to. It's like I said, it's a long way and nobody's going to stop. But the kid is the kid is a huge piece.
Look at Florida right here in the 2024 rankings.
Yeah, 4 commits.
Yeah,
here come the Gators. Chop.
Georgia's class right now is disgusting. They've got 8 kids in the top 100.
On track for an all-timer.
Yeah,
really gonna on track. If things hold as they are, a chance to get near, if not break, that Texas A&M.
Well,
Tennessee, before we chop some wood, I want Tennessee, man, to give us 3 reasons. And they can only be like 1 to 2 word reasons. They can be names. I don't care what they are. 2 to 3 reasons you've got in the comments here that Tennessee will win the national championship. I want to, if you're listening, I want to see what your thought process is.
You could take the best 50 college players in the state of Tennessee, and Georgia would beat them by 14 points on a neutral field.
I might have been one of them. I'm kidding.
Get ready for Tennessee.
Hey, I blocked Bill Norton.
Tennessee. Wow. Well,
like on Twitter?
Instagram.
Tennessee is not, unfortunately for Tennessee, it's not one of the more talent-rich states in the South. It's talented.
It's talented.
And listen, hey, I'm going to throw a little hot take in here. I think we're 18 months away. No, let's say 18. We're 24. We're 2 years away from Tennessee fans being like, I don't know if Josh Heupel's the right guy.
How far are we from Josh?
2 years? We might be sooner than that.
Tennessee man says best offense. Best offense. 2, good coaching.
I think Tennessee ran into some luck with Hendon Hooker, and they made their luck. I just don't.
Wes, didn't you ask for 3?
No, I said 2 to 3. I didn't. I knew after 2, and I put a lot of like numerical restrictions on that comment.
Hey, why you want to know why I don't think Tennessee's going to make it? Watch how Georgia and Alabama recruited on defense in this past class.
Yeah,
and how they're going to do it again, and they're going to do it again. And Tennessee's getting some guys now. They're getting guys, but are they getting line of scrimmage dudes?
David Hobbs is one for sure, but do they have enough? And the thing about it is, it's going to take time for Tennessee to get back to where it needs to be in terms of the talent to compete with a Georgia and Alabama. I think,
and they go on the road to Florida. They're on the road at Alabama. They get A&M this year, who's talented.
I actually think Tennessee has a pretty favorable schedule.
Tennessee man says
Tennessee's going to be a grease fire before it gets back to gets where it needs to be.
He says Tennessee man says Tennessee own Georgia, and I think Tennessee got to worry about own South Carolina first.
Yeah,
Tennessee has 2 losses going into November.
This whole show is going to end up on Old Takes Exposed when Tennessee beats Georgia 45-12.
Tennessee has to get the defense fixed. That's the holdup. I do not doubt Josh Heupel. I said going into the year, Josh Heupel, I think is a really good play caller. I think he's a great offensive mind. The defense is what Tennessee's struggling with, and in some regards, that's what it's been for a minute. And I don't know that they did enough in this class to address it.
God, Florida. There would be a million Tennessee men in here if Tennessee had beaten Georgia this year.
Yeah,
Central Florida was doing this when Josh Heupel left.
If there were a million Tennessee men in
Georgia defense is a joke.
Tennessee man is officially a joke. Tennessee man's a troll. All right, let's chop some wood. Chopping wood Wednesday.
Tennessee troll.
I was going to. What was that?
Tennessee troll.
Tennessee troll. I was going to talk about. Gosh, what was I going to? I was going to talk about Kenny McIntosh. But we already talked about him. So I'm going to talk about Ryan Day. And I saw someone on Twitter today call him Crying Day, which was pretty funny. I got to hand it to you. I don't remember who said it, but
that's not funny. The best one ever. The best one ever is Joel Osterine for Dabo Swinney. Joel Osterine is the best one I've ever heard.
That was pretty good.
Yeah.
Crying Day, though, is topical and it just makes sense. And I'm not just going to go after Ryan Day. Y'all can go watch the press conference when he is just really struggling to move on from that Peach Bowl non-call targeting, which it was not targeting. It is, in fact, possible to have a concussion without having a head-to-head contact collision. I can attest to that. I think I've had a couple. People have told me that I've had them. Look, man, don't just go after Ryan Day. Be grateful that your head coach, Georgia fans, doesn't speak into the mic about these things. The furthest you've heard Kirby Smart go into this territory was campaigning for Georgia to still make the playoff after losing to Bama in the 2018 SEC championship game. But even then, your coach isn't complaining about refs. And we all know that he could have had some opportunities to complain about refs against Bama the year before that. So it's just a different culture. It's a different mindset at Georgia. And Ryan Day is going to have to relive this Peach Bowl for a long, long time. Georgia, you get to relive it too, but for very different reasons. And unfortunately for Ryan Day, I think that the most questionable decision in all of this was not the referee picking up the flag. It was Ohio State's head coach continuing to use National Signing Day as an opportunity to complain about the refs. Not a good look.
And listen, I'll tell you this. If Ohio State doesn't get over that Michigan hump again next year and things start to get a little sweaty around there, he's going to be reliving that Peach Bowl in a big way. That'll be one people will remember and hold against him for a long time.
Oh, and they'll hold it against him that he's still holding on to this too. I mean, the fans do not forget. They don't forget one comment you make, man. People still to this day bring up that rings collect dust thing from Mark Richt, and all that was like was kind of a moment for him and the relationships and an after the fact thing that, listen, we didn't win a championship, but your relationships mean more. People
I
still
hated
bring
that got twisted.
Yeah, God, that's one of the most brutal twistings of words, and you don't hear about that anymore now that they got the kind of the like the steam got let off, and their heads weren't about to explode anymore. They don't hear about that anymore, but they had to get that one off their chests periodically for a long time.
All right, who's got the axe? Palmer's watching basketball.
I'll take the axe.
I'm trying to think of what I want to chop wood about.
Let's go back to that Brock Bowers t-shirt. Go buy it. All right, just go buy it, because Brock Bowers has done a thing and I'm not going to sit here and call him a unicorn or whatever. He's just made a pretty grand gesture for a collegiate athlete. Brock Bowers has decided to lean on his brand partnerships and his ability to earn off of his specific name, image, and likeness into, whoever comes and wants to pay, He's not taking money from the preferred collective of UGA Athletics, or the preferred collective for the program. He's not taking money for that. He's doing it on his own, and he wants his teammates to have a chance to earn big through the collective. And he has decided that he's just going to kind of go out and do his own deals and get that thing. And that's incredible. I mean, we're in a day and age. Listen, I talked to a cat on the phone the other day. I don't think he would have done this. I don't think he would have done this. Yeah, I got a feeling. I don't necessarily. But at the same time, I will say that kid that I talked to on the phone said he's not worried about NIL deals. He just wants to know how you can get to the NFL. So maybe he would have done this. I don't know. I don't want to judge the young man. He was very boisterous, though. Says he's going to be better than George Pickens.
Yeah.
Aaron Butler, shout out. I enjoyed talking to you. I need to call you again. But that's just not what we see in college football now, transfer portal. And I am not sitting here saying that any player is being selfish or I look down upon them, but I'm always going to lift people up that I feel like are doing some pretty unselfish stuff. And for Brock Bowers to say, I don't want your collective money, I'll go make my own, give that to my teammates. That's cool. That's
Well, how about the fact that at least 40%, I think I'm doing some Tennessee man math here, 40% of the Twitter replies to Pete Nakos, Brock Bowers didn't release this. Brock Bowers didn't say, look at what I'm doing. It was an On3 reporter who broke this story, okay? So many of the replies are, yeah, well, he's going to get NFL money anyway. Yeah, well, his parents are rich. He's from California. Yeah, well, this. I mean, who cares what the road was? The act in and of itself is so impressive.
Yeah, give your Christmas bonus to somebody else when you know you're going to get a raise the next year. Go ahead and do that, jackass.
There you go.
right.
Tennessee man came in here and stirred the pot.
No, I'm going next, and I'm gonna briefly. I'm gonna do two, but I'm gonna chop wood first off on Tennessee man being the villain this show needed. Man,
I'm Tennessee man. It was me.
I am with it. I am with Tennessee man. He is a heel.
Sometimes they get on us during the show,
probably-
and they have not tonight. They have not said anything to us. They are all over him.
Yeah,
I probably know
it's like
Tennessee, man,
a
let's be
swarm.
honest, guys. I probably know.
Jabby. Maybe it's Jabby. No, shout out because everybody needs a heel. I appreciate that. I'm going to chop wood tonight on all of this talk because I feel like I've been having this discussion with so many people lately about Kirby hiring Mike Bobo if Todd Monken were to leave. Now, we don't know that. Obviously, you guys talked about that at the beginning of the show.
We said we're pretty sure he's leaving.
Okay.
I'm joking. We didn't say that.
I knew that, yeah. But I will say this. To me, you have to trust Kirby Smart to do the right thing when it comes to the coaching ranks. And I was sitting here thinking about it because we got to talking about Ellis Robinson. And I thought about how they started things off with Mel Tucker and what great evaluations Mel Tucker was able to make. And then you followed that up with Charlton Warren, who was able to put together a couple of nice recruiting classes for you. After Warren came Jamal Adai. Obviously, he was on the staff for the national championship. And then right now you got Fran Brown, who's probably one of the hottest names in terms of recruiting and in terms of development. A great season for him in year one and off to a fantastic start in year two, given that he just landed the nation's #1 cornerback. Kirby Smart has an eye for talent. He's going to take the best man available. I think that that's the mantra at Georgia in terms of who gets to play. I think it's also the mantra. I think you have to carry that mantra over to coaching as well. And I think that people need to understand that Kirby Smart has an eye for talent. He knows what it takes to win in this league, and he's okay to develop a guy. If he feels Mike Bobo's the right fit, I think that that's probably something that you could stomach. And I think you could probably stomach a little bit better than you think you could, because Mike Bobo is going to be working with a lot different talent if he were to get this job now than he had in the past, and he wasn't bad in the past. So I don't think that Todd Monken's leaving. I'm not saying Todd Monken's going to leave. All I'm saying is Kirby Smart has done really well for himself when it came to coaching hires. I think that if he is put in that position again, he'll do the same.
Bingo.
By the way, I want to point one thing out. Kirby Smart had a chance to hire Mike Bobo when he hired Todd Monken. He didn't do it. He went and got Todd Monken. So don't just assume that this is a buddy hire. We heard that about Stacey Searles too. By the end of the year, all of you rascals were angry that Georgia didn't win the Joe Moore Award. Don't start with me, okay?
How are those retreads looking right now?
Listen, it's about the man in the big office. It's about the man in the big office, and you know, like I think I put it on Twitter today talking about Alabama's demise, and I think everybody's a little bit fast on that. But while Alabama's been kind of scuffling, Georgia's jaw got a lot harder, and the fists got a lot harder too. And that's all because of Kirby Smart and the culture. Whoever steps in is going to be expected to kind of keep it going, and if they don't, they'll be gone.
And
happened to change.
Tyler Brennan over here said they're about to come for you now, Jake. Listen, I'm not even advocating to give Mike Bobo the job. That's not the point of what I just said at all. What I'm saying is I think Kirby Smart's going to do an exhaustive search. And I think if he feels Mike Bobo's the right guy, then you got to trust that. But I think that he's not just going to hand the keys of the Lamborghini over to his buddy just for the sake of doing it.
Yeah, that ain't happening. All right, we will hand the keys of this Lamborghini over to Palmer Thomas.
Probably not a great decision because I don't have
screen now. So you
Wait,
have
this is when Palmer Thomas needs to be Dick Schaap on the old sports reporters that goes to a commercial break and then come back and he gets to do it.
We call it tap dancing in the biz.
I don't have a ton to chop wood about. But one thing I have been thinking about here recently.
That's fine. Just Palmer's thoughts.
One thing I have been thinking about recently. Georgia's 2024 safety room. It is full of insane talent. Bruce, I heard you talking on the radio. That kind of sparked the conversation. But Malachi Starks is going to be in that room in all likelihood. John El Aguero going to be in that room in all likelihood. You've got Peyton Woodyard and Jalen Hayward committed. KJ Bolden is who Georgia leads for, as the RPM favorite. Those are the top 3 safeties according to the On3 consensus. So in that 3-year span, let's say Georgia does sign those 3, Bolden, Woodyard, Hayward. They're favored for Bolden. They've got those 2 committed. They've also got signed John L. Aguero and have Malachi Starks on the roster. In a 3-year stretch, the top 3 safeties, they would have signed in those 3 classes, they would have signed 4 of them. That's insane.
Yeah, no question about it. Thanks for listening to my spot on Bill Shanks also, Paul.
Yeah, it was good.
Old Shanks.
Yeah, they've loaded it up, man. Georgia's defense this year and for the next couple of years, man. I mean, with the way they've recruited this thing, the depth is there, the talent is there. It's off the charts, man. I mean, there's going to be probably some growing pains, adjusting to a new quarterback, but I don't see any fall off for this defense at all. And I mentioned on Shanks yesterday, and I'd be curious to know y'all's thoughts on this for those of you who have watched him closely. But I think Jordan Hall may have freshman All-American ability.
Yes, that was another thing that I thought about recently. And I shot you that text, Roos. It's insane how low ESPN was on him. That's the only thing that was holding him back from being a 5-star plus player. Definitely somebody that struck me, got my attention when I was doing the roster reset series on the defensive linemen. Strongly encourage y'all to go check that out. Great series that we've got going.
It really is. It's great. And you give like a little bit of a morsel on our YouTube channel on the shorts, but then you really dive deep in your written stuff too. That is premium, by the way. If you're not already a premium DawgsHQ subscriber, you still have a chance to do that at a pretty great rate through August 31st. So go check that out and hit the like button, hit subscribe here if you haven't done that already, and give our guy Tennessee Man a subscription as well. He's earned it tonight.
Hey, tough night for the Vols. They lost.
Don't forget, we got a lot of people tuned in. Starting next Monday, Bark.
Oh yeah,
Dark.
let's do that. Let's do that. Y'all tell them about Bark After Dark for everyone that wasn't here.
Yeah, Bark After Dark. Behind kind of our inside the ropes type deal, as far as inside the press box or inside the photo media room. Our goal is to kind of break down the fourth wall. We want to have former players on and stuff to talk about those guys, but we really want to have people who cover Georgia and college football nationally, other reporters too. I mean, other guys that cover other teams.
And maybe not even football people necessarily.
Right, yeah.
We're going to just get people, man. We get
weird
accents. Pie in the sky. Like if you were guaranteed you could have this person on the show, who would you would just be outside of your body if you could have them on?
I thought about this last night, and I think it's just because I would personally love to interview the guy so much. It was Chris Hansen from Dateline.
I'm kind of expecting him to just walk through your kitchen right now.
I thought about you could possibly.
I don't think anyone heard anything you just said.
I said Chris Hansen probably be one of the greatest interviews you could ever have in your life. What stories the man could tell.
I would probably go
evasion.
Just because I've become such a big fan of the show. And it's going to sound weird because he wouldn't consider himself a celebrity. Is Georgia graduate John T. Edge, who does True South on SEC Network with Wright Thompson. I don't look this way by mistake, guys. I like to eat and I like to drink. And John T. Edge is an expert on both. And I would sit here with a notepad and he could tell me about a Vietnamese place in Shelby, Alabama or whatever. And I would probably, go out of my way to go eat somewhere like that. So, that's probably what I'd want to do. But yeah, our goal is we want to have a lot of people on for the Georgia market. We want to talk about the experiences of the job and the unique access that we get. Cause sometimes you get to go and you get to walk a sideline in a stadium. Sometimes you go walk one sideline in an end zone. sometimes you go to a bowl game and the team that you cover, you get 15 minutes of open practice and they do yoga and they're facing away from you with their asses in your face.
Jake, you
the
weren't
whole
there,
time.
were you?
A cabana.
I was for that one.
Sometimes you end up in a cabana.
Sometimes you end up in a cabana.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but yeah, we all spend a lot of time together. We all go out and do things together. And we just want to have, those media types in. We're going to drink beer, maybe have another drink, maybe puff on a cigar from here and there, go out on the back deck. My wife's already, heard me talk about that and read me to write at. So yeah, it's just a laid back, have fun show. I'll go ahead and tell you guys right away. One guy we've already talked about having on is Ross Dillinger for Sports Illustrated, who has covered LSU, Mississippi State grad, one of the most laid back, coolest guys you'll ever talk to or meet. And we're going to talk to him kind of about some stuff that he's done in the business. And it's not really going to be an interview. It's going to be a conversation. And Roos and I have been talking about doing something like this for 10 years since we became friends, because we just always thought it would be fun. And we're going to do it. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it's going to be completely unserious. It's going to be, we'll be taking questions. We'll be, I'm talking about our lives, talking about the business. I mean, just a little bit of everything, man. Think of it as a variety show to some degree, but and
we'll be talking ball still too. I mean, we're still bringing things back to Georgia and
absolutely
stuff like that.
And every episode will be live from Palmer's apartment.
That's right.
Just smoking cigars, getting
inside.
Palmer booted from his lease.
Palmer's not going to get his deposit back.
Yeah, no. But we're excited about it, and I hope people tune into it and check it out, because I do. I think it's going to be a really good time.
Guys, this just in, per TMZ, Tennessee man is now in a relationship with Margot Robbie. Thanks for watching the Georgia show. Kind of not a crazy signing day for Georgia. A lot of loose ends still. We didn't really solve much on this show. But we did talk about Ellis Robinson. Oh, Ellis Island. I'm going to leave you guys with this thought. Is Ellis Island a good name or a bad nickname for a cornerback named Ellis?
I think it's bad, because Ellis Island was about letting people in. I get it. I mean, it's catchy, and there is an island named Ellis Island, but the whole thing was about.
Hey, dude, you can let them in the island.
Just think about it.
They just don't get to hold the football.
Yeah, sure.
Y'all hit like and subscribe. We'll see you next time. Peace.